Whoa. I didn't. All right, so back this part up.
Lay it on me. Did I throw a lot of information out there? I think I did. Yeah, I got exercise equipment to pick up.
We're losing weight, we're losing pounds, and we're gaining episodes.
Tell us about your fitness.
Hello, welcome. It's another episode of Finding Mike Fits at 40.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
It
you like
was.
that
I
one?
can't even tell that your voice is
Quite resonant.
Yeah, I actually was able to do that today. So we're not recording on a normal day because I had zero voice.
In fact, it was a mute.
Zero
Yeah.
voice. Like if you have to give a level of voice, it was at zero voice.
It was pretty dang close to zero. I played 4 hours the day before, and I've been fighting this post-nasal drip thing. So
cocaine's
everybody
a
in the
hell
house,
of a drug.
everybody in the house has gone to the doctors, and none of us are like sick per se. Like we
Yeah.
don't have anything. They can't find nothing.
Yeah.
So, but we all have this post-nasal thing going on, and it makes me cough. And the coughing is what's killing my voice.
Okay.
Have you tried not coughing?
Good idea.
Or cough through
let
your
me try
nose.
that. I'll get right.
Have you tried
Cough-
nose coughing?
Or cough
That
through
would
your,
hurt
through your butt.
so bad.
Butt coughing.
Butt coughing.
Yeah. Coughing.
That's Chrissy. That's Michael. We are all here today.
Yeah, we're regulars
Yeah.
on this show.
You've showed up once or twice. We try to keep them away, but they keep coming back. So we're here to talk. Last week, we talked about, or a week or so ago, it's been a minute for us.
Last episode.
Yeah, last episode.
is.
We talked about that movie with the veganism and all the stuff.
Game
Yeah.
changer.
Notice how he said
Game
it's a
changers.
movie. It is not a documentary.
Right.
It's a mockumentary? Is
It's
that
a
what you want to call it?
mockumentary slash film slash horror movie.
It
Such
is a
horror.
very well done depiction of what it's like to not eat meat and how good and beneficial it is for your health. But we're going to talk about why that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, it's an inaccurate depiction.
And
It's a great historical fiction.
it's not making me cough. It's going to be a tough episode to get through without coughing.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So last time we talked, Mike, where did we leave off talking
We
about?
left off at the animal protein increasing inflammation and how that's a load of horse shit.
Okay, so we're going to get back into the conversation about talking about the movie The Game Changers. But it's after Thanksgiving. Guys, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was lovely.
It was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, my whole immediate family basically came in
So
to stay
on
with me.
Tuesday,
fun.
Yeah,
Michael's mom, who is like the cutest, most perfect little angel in the
really
world,
is, yeah.
made us all food. And this woman, very talented with the food department. Man, she fed us good.
Yeah.
We ate big.
Not
It
only
was-
is she capable of going 100 miles an hour nonstop for
Yeah, she's had energy. She got energy.
63 years, but she's a champion in the
Not
cooking
only does she cook,
department.
but like she also cooks a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just so much food.
Oh, there were-
She made
Is
these.
she the Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was 13 people, and there were still leftovers.
Yeah, it was like she
and
was feeding an army.
Everybody had like seconds and thirds, and
She made these stuffed shells that were bomb, and then she made like her own, meat sauce with meatballs, and she made pepperoni bread, which is good. She made devil dogs.
devil
Ugh,
dogs.
I live for the devil dogs. Devil dogs are like
What's a devil
it's like a whoopie pie. I think some people know them as whoopie
Yeah, I
pies.
hate just saying whoopie pie, but it's the closest thing where you have like the
The
two
way I
chocolate
explain it
cookies
to,
and
like-
inside's the cream, but it's
but it's
totally
like way
different.
better than that. You ever had an Oreo cakester?
Yeah.
It's like that, but
so
like
it's a
if an
dessert.
Oreo
The dessert
cakester
devil
was
dog.
like,
Oh, I thought it was a
yes.
food.
It's
I was
like
like, is
a-
that like a deviled egg? but with a
when
hot
she,
dog?
when
Like,
she
what's
makes
happening?
the two halves, like the cookies, the recipe is so sensitive that if you undercook or overcook by about 30 to 60 seconds, they're done. Like you messed them up.
Dude, the
like
consistency
they won't
of them
rise
is like-
enough if it's undercooked, and then they'll burn immediately if you go like 30 seconds overcooking. So it's a very, very small
They're
window.
I hate trying to explain a devil dog
I
to people
know.
because it's like so hard. The top of the cookie is like dense but moist. I don't know how to explain it.
and the
then
inside isn't like
inside-
that cream from any cookie you're buying where
Dude,
you
it's
just
like if
immediately cut
ice
through it.
cream had a baby with Cool Whip.
Oh my
You
God.
can buy, so they sell. Now that I didn't realize,
I know what you're saying, but nope.
but they call them devil dogs.
I get it.
Is what
They're
I'm
not.
saying.
Yeah, this is like
This
the
is
most
an ancient
delicious thing.
Italian recipe.
How many calories is one devil dog, Mike?
I thought you said you didn't want to know.
I want to know now for the people on the air.
I marked them at about 375 calories.
That's not as bad as I thought you were going to say.
No, it's
considering I ate 2.
Yeah, and I ate 7 and
Michael
6.
say only
Michael
2?
eats
Only
so
2?
many. They're dense. Like I don't know how he eats so many of them.
I've seen this man eat like half a cheesecake in one sitting. So,
I want him to play
That's just
Chubby
'cause I'm
Bunny
being
with
good.
Devil Dogs
That's
so bad because like they're so thick.
Yeah.
I feel like you could get like 2 bites.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, delicious. She fed us. We love her. She's amazing.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah, and then they stayed for the rest of the week.
Did you guys also make Thanksgiving food?
Yeah.
Of course you did. What was I
Of
asking?
course.
Oh, yeah. Mom did an entire turkey with bacon and
Whoa,
we
whoa,
did-
whoa, whoa, whoa! Step back.
Yeah, what did she do with the bacon?
A turkey
Wraps
with
it.
bacon? Wait, like the whole turkey?
Yeah.
Wow, your mom's a genius.
Yeah.
How did she get bacon to stay on? And
You got to
like,
weave it, guy.
Oh my God, she weaves the bacon.
You got to weave the bacon.
around the entire.
It's
like,
a bacon weave.
Wait, just the breast of the turkey, or like the?
God, no.
Why are you acting like I'm crazy?
I don't know. I just need you to envision this.
I have never in my life heard somebody wrap
If like
the entire
a
turkey with
pig
bacon.
ate a chicken whole and then you murdered the pig and took off all the non-essentials.
Not essential.
Wow, that's genius.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that sounds. It would
And then
make,
she made, from scratch.
Everything else.
Well, yeah,
probably,
mashed potatoes and 2 different types of Brussels sprouts with onions and such in them, and then broccoli on its own separate thing with other stuff in that too, which everything was just delicious. And then we did a whole ham that had been like regularly soaked in or basted in some sort of like.
What's funny
sweet
about
and
Mike is
savory
like he's not
something.
the kitchen guy. He's just the eater man.
Correct.
You know?
I mean,
So
I'll bring her items.
Yeah.
I'll pass stuff or get more pans or whatever. If I can help, I'll help. But
you're
yeah,
like the assistant when there's like in the surgery where they're like scalpel, and
Essentially,
you
yes.
just hand the
and then I eat the person where.
then he samples the person.
I'm gonna die this episode. Oh man,
How's your turkey day, Victor?
it was good. I spent some time with the kids, and I had to work later. I played a gig.
A turkey gig?
gig.
Yeah, down on the river at the Plant Riverside.
Down
Oh,
by the
cool.
river.
It was
know,
fun.
right? That
I was a
sounds
little nervous
ridiculous.
when I first got there though because they have like a
There is like the Christmas
Christmas market
happening,
thing going
yeah.
on. But they were all closed on Thanksgiving Day.
Right, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
guess.
Good.
And so
Were there
I
people down
originally I was
there?
like, oh, there's going to be a whole lot of people. This is going to be great. And I got down there and there was like a smattering of people. That's
good.
And I was like, uh-oh. But as I started playing, it filled up and it was all busy around me. So that was good. Cool. Did really well overall. And so, it was a good day.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I got to see the kids
Credina?
early.
How was your
With the
Thanksgiving?
kids.
I got to go to Hilton Head and hang out with the Fam Bam,
Okay,
and
all right.
that was cool. It was the first Thanksgiving that Aaron's sister and brother-in-law were like, so like everyone was together
yeah.
in the same place, so that was kind of cool. And we stayed the night with Doug Reese. Doug Reese
Oh.
got to come in. All the kittens
And the
also
kittens,
came.
I was about to
Yeah,
say,
we
yeah.
brought the whole family.
Yeah, you did.
Wait. You packed up how many?
They have to be fed like every
I
12
had
minutes.
to 12 minutes. I packed up the 3 kittens and Doug because we went to stay the night there.
Oh, so you're down to 3? Because last time it was like 35 and a half you had or something
Well,
like that?
those ones can fend for themselves. The only ones that can't at this point are the
Yes,
3
actually,
kittens.
today the 3 kittens might actually get taken by the Humane Society, get put for adoption. So I'm a little bit sad about it.
Oh,
I know I really want to keep one, Michael.
you should.
I know.
I'm sorry, Aaron, but
I'm sorry.
I'm on the struggle.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. All right, Mike. So we talked about. I remember we talked about the first burrito experiment.
we did.
There was a second burrito experiment.
There's a
was
second one
pretty
coming
funny.
up. Yeah, it's fairly amusing. Prior to getting to that, though, we are on animal protein and cardiovascular disease / cancer. Because
right. I remember that guy talking about
in
that.
the movie, they're making claims that eating meat is going to increase your risk of cardiovascular disease and or cancer. And they make the claim, and it's a very, very bold claim,
Mm-hmm.
that the vegan diet is the only diet that can reverse heart disease. Now,
Oh.
how factual do we think that is?
Probably not great.
Did it specifically say? I don't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like. Did it specifically say though that it was the only diet, or does it better?
And you're surprised by the bold claim? at
I'm
this
not
point?
surprised by the bull claim. I'm just
That
trying
wasn't
to
an
clarify
accusation,
exactly.
but I'm saying yes. They
Yeah.
said.
So it says it's the only diet that's able to do that. If you're eating meat at all, you cannot decrease inflammation. Is what it's saying.
I mean, that's digging deeper into the statement than they were willing to make. Because
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
if you don't have research or studies to actually back that up, you can only go so far with a bold claim.
Yeah.
You don't start kicking out more and more details beyond that point.
Fair.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, fatty meats are linked to issues, which we've talked about many times over many episodes where we covered the, taking in more than 10% of your overall calories as saturated fat is when you start to clog arteries, up cholesterol, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I think it's also just a weird thing to kick out a percentage, because what if you're in a severe calorie deficit, dieting hard?
Yeah.
You would assume that 10% or more of your calories are not necessarily going to go to clogging arteries, like if you're above maintenance or going on a surplus because you're trying to put on weight, muscle weight, or if you just happen to eat in a surplus. Then 10% of those calories
So if
hit a
I'm
lot
eating
harder.
like saturated fats, but I'm in a calorie deficit,
Mm-hmm.
would that fat be less likely to clog your arteries? Because it's
I believe so.
therefore
If you're going
becoming-
off of 10%.
Yeah.
So whenever I see numbers like this and I see studies, and it's strange to me how nobody quite covers that, they'll just throw out a percentage, and even like very, very qualified guys that are putting out good information, and women. So to me, I tend to just base everything off of maintenance calories.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is a good route to go. Now, if you are, fairly heavy, fairly overweight or obese, then I wouldn't go off of maintenance calories for that. So there's a lot of confounders, because you're carrying way more adipose tissue, body fat tissue, than your body actually needs to be healthy. So if you're basing 10% off of those maintenance calories, you're probably going way overboard. So to do a catch-all, I would probably say 10% of calories based off of maintenance at a roughly healthy body weight.
should be your saturated fats.
Yes, if not less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
would- I
like
would
a
shoot
good
for less.
hack to be like, this is a saturated fat versus an unsaturated fat? Or no, you just kind of need to know.
I mean, you kind of need to know. Some things are going to have more than others, obviously. I think this is why red meat gets highlighted so often. But if you're getting fatty cuts of red meat, you're getting a solid bit of saturated fat.
Or like bacon covered turkey.
100%. Or yeah, maybe. If,
You took your lean meat, made it not lean.
yeah. So I mean, that's. I love having red meat. You
And
know,
so
and
is
I'll do that.
an avocado is unsaturated fat?
I don't believe there are any. Oh no, there are saturated fats in some plants, I guess. So that may have some saturated. I don't remember. I'd have to double
I
check.
was just wondering
that.
if like that's
There's
what they
no
were getting at with the
cholesterol
guy
in
with the
plants.
avocado. You know, the avocado burrito
Right.
guy. Yeah.
Well, there's evidence for some fats lowering those issues, and that's where we're kind of coming up on as well. Because while fatty meats can be linked to those issues, leaner meats don't seem to have that same kind of effect on blood lipids. So I mean, that's why you've got fish oil kind of kicking it out, and there's fatty fish is fine because of the omega-3 content. And they've shown lean meats and some of those fishes have shown decreasing risk of cardiovascular disease. That's why the Mediterranean diet was also a big thing for the longest time. Like you'll even have some overweight Italians out there drinking red wine and eating a bunch of olive oil, and they don't have those risks of cardiovascular disease. I remember reading way back when there was like a small section of Italy that was just really cruising with that.
By the way, avocado does have saturated fat.
A lot? What's the
Standard
deal there?
avocado, according to the Google, is about 240 calories and has about 3 grams of saturated fat.
Okay, so 3 grams is
Yeah.
going to be about 27 calories.
Yeah.
And so if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, 27 grams isn't a big hit
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at keeping your calories below roughly 10%. So 2,000 calorie diet, if let's say that's your maintenance, you're looking at keeping your fat calories below 200 calories.
Yeah. Okay.
Question though, real quick about the saturated thing. So, like, yes, if you're at a deficit, but we've said before that that if you're so let's say you're at the deficit, and you're saying that if your saturated is over 10%, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But we've said before how skinny people who are not eating who are losing weight or can be unhealthy. So
Correct.
if their saturated fats, their markers can be completely off because
They
of that.
could
correct?
be, but you're tossing all the markers off based off of one factor. And what I said was it's not as important to focus on the pure 10%. Because for example, if you're at 11 or 12%, but I'm on a 500 calorie a day deficit, then if I bumped up to maintenance calories, I'd probably be at 8 or 9% of my.
I mean, I
overall
wasn't
calories.
considering 1 or 2%. I was thinking like 20 or 30
No,
at that
no.
point.
See,
But yeah,
I'm more careful with my words than that. Had it been something that
well,
drastic.
I'm saying that's where my brain went.
Yeah,
was
no, I got
thinking
you.
Like
I got you.
Like
So that's a
something
good thing to
that's
bring
way
that
more
up. So
dramatic.
somebody else wasn't focused on that.
Yeah. All right, just curious.
No, you're good.
How many people are usually over saturated fat? Sorry, I keep going. Like, is that
don't know
like
if we
a
have that
super
number.
common? Like, do you have an idea?
I
Like,
mean, look-
is
look
that like
at-
an average
Look at the amount of heart disease.
Yeah, I bet
mean,
it's significant
cardiovascular
because shit
disease
that has
is
saturated fat is tasty.
everywhere?
Cardiovascular disease is also what the number one killer these days.
Yeah,
So
I think it really is.
the average meat eater is, and this is where they come up with some of their numbers and kind of support themselves. The average meat eater is also living a less healthy life. Because if you're vegan, it's more of an extreme lifestyle.
Yeah,
you're
you
more
are
likely
committed.
going into more healthy lifestyles. Where the average person who's eating meat, it's not the meat that's putting them
It's
in that
everything
category
else.
specifically. Meat's easy. Getting burgers from McDonald's is
I would
easy
say the
and
quality
cheap.
of meat matters
Correct.
too.
I
Quality
think
of meat
also
is
like if
huge.
you're a vegan, you're probably like exercising, you're eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit,
Yeah.
like that. It's less the diet and more like the lifestyle that
Correct.
comes along with that
That's
diet.
100%. But they've built these vegan facts off of what's more related to lifestyles
Yeah,
than anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then again, there's been a ton of studies on the Mediterranean diet, but in this mockumentary, they left out all those studies. So they just
Yeah.
want to polarize it between meat eaters and non-eaters.
Yeah, I would have really enjoyed if they had like facts coming from other diets. You know, it was like just vegan, and I was like, okay, but like compare that to some other things, so like we can form our own opinions.
Right.
That would have been cool.
Right. So another of the statements as well is they make the claim that the amino acids in meat raise your risk of cells multiplying, i.e. cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the weird thing about that is the amino acids found in plants are the exact
Yeah, the same
same
amino acids,
damn
yeah.
amino acids, but they don't touch on that either. Just, if these amino acids come from protein, that they're no different. They're the same thing. The
Yeah,
stuff,
I mean, the guy was going on about how you can get all your amino acids from plants.
which is true. You absolutely
So
can.
then it's like, okay, but they're the
They're-
same
they're
amino,
amino
acids.
acids.
Yeah.
Which yet again, you can. We've talked about this before. You can live a very healthy vegan lifestyle. You can be an athlete. You can get all of your amino acids that you need. You would
Yeah.
just have to get more varied sources. You would have to be a little bit more, structured about it to make sure you got everything you needed. But you can do it. It's
Yeah,
just a
it's
matter of
it's
is
been
it
done.
necessary or is it a moral standpoint you're on, which is fine. Go that route. But if it's a health standpoint, as we've stated throughout this entire episode and throughout the last 70 some odd episodes, like eat your lean meats, but
Yeah.
get plenty of fruits and vegetables because you need the fiber, you need the micronutrients, and then it's also a way to pick up more amino acids, which
Yeah.
have not been shown to give you cancer.
Yeah, it would be really unfortunate if they did, considering we need them.
We need them.
And
So
we need them.
yeah, that would be a bad
They're
adaptation.
essential, but also they give you cancer.
Right. So
I think everything gives you cancer.
As
though,
far as
so it's like-
amino acids, they definitely highlighted leucine. Which do you guys remember what leucine?
I do remember the word
main role.
leucine.
Okay,
I don't
Yeah,
remember
I don't
what we said
remember.
it does, though.
it's
Mike.
okay. This
Yeah.
isn't a test. I was just curious.
Feels like a
I
test.
did. I feel like I failed.
It's
I
more
feel
of
like
a
failure.
sample
Like I let
to
you
see,
down.
like if you guys ever remembered it, then the vast majority of the people listening
leucine
may not have
content.
really focused on that either. So if that gets kicked out in a movie where they're able to highlight this one bad thing, right? So now it's been vilified, and now it's very easy to be like, "Well, I can't eat meat. It's got leucine in it, guys." Okay, well, plants have leucine too, just less of it. So leucine is your main driver of muscle protein synthesis.
Oh,
Okay, leucine's that
want
main
that.
one. It's one of your 3 branched chain amino acids, and it's the one that specifically drives your muscle protein synthesis.
So why did they say it was bad?
Because they're idiots.
You are going to kill me this episode, Michael. I am going to not be able to breathe.
So basically, they're saying like that's the one thing they can really differentiate between semi-differentiate between meat amino acids and plant amino acids. Same amino acid, but they're like, well, look, plants have less leucine.
I see. So
Right.
they're just because it's what plants have less of.
Correct.
They're just going ahead and making
And so
a
they've-
connection that doesn't exist. Yeah,
No,
okay.
no. And so it's not found. And your leucine drives your mTOR, which is mammalian target of rapamycin, which doesn't mean shit to
Is that
most
what
people.
turns you into a reptile? Mammalian?
Rapamycin. It makes you a rapid reptile.
Oh, okay.
Well, wouldn't want to be a slow reptile.
Right?
Yeah, knowing what that means is neither here nor there. Essentially, MTOR is the hormonal pathway that's signaled when you resistance train, you get enough protein, and it's what drives sparing your muscle and recovery, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if you're doing more conditioning and not lifting, it kicks in the hormone pathways called AMPK, which I don't remember what that one means because it's less important to me. And so that's going to be less muscle sparing. It's going to focus more on your conditioning, cardio metabolic changes, et cetera, et cetera. So they're focusing on MTOR, which was lowering MTOR was kind of one form of cancer treatment. Or I'm sorry, phrase that wrong, because they're saying that MTOR, raised levels of MTOR have been shown to kind of coincide with cancer levels. The problem is those are chronic, low-level elevations of MTOR that are elevated not from the diet, not from exercising, that just happen to be somewhat of a side effect. So if you're looking at acute raises of MTOR, leucine kicking in, that's from resistance training. It's acute. It's supposed to be there for that range of helping you repair and build, et cetera, et cetera. But then it drops back down. So taking a correlation between chronic low levels of MTOR and putting that next to a healthy lifestyle of eating lean meats and getting exercise, it's another example of correlation. Correlation is not necessarily causation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've said this before, that how correlation, that's Becky likes to use this thing all the time, that it says that drowning, that ice cream causes drowning.
Right.
Because
Right. I remember that.
yeah, I remember, because usually there are ice cream shops close to the water, like the beach and pools and stuff like that. So a lot of people who have eaten ice cream like a lot of people who have drowned have eaten ice cream recently. Well, it's just because there's ice cream near there.
If I'm going to drown, I hope I go out with ice cream in my belly.
That's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, looking at the correlation causation scenario, like there's a lot of things that happen after exercise that are normally thought of to be bad, right? Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, inflammation goes up, but those are all acute rises, and people who exercise have been shown to have great levels and lower causes of all-cause mortality, et cetera, et cetera. But those are acute
Yeah, it's
rises.
interesting how it's like, look, man, sometimes the body does these things for a reason,
absolutely.
right? Like it's the natural response of your body to these stimuli. And yes, in some scenarios it's bad, but in some scenarios it's good. You can't just victimize one thing. Like that's how it goes.
Because that's just not how the world works.
Right, yeah.
That's what we said about all that inflammation, where you're like, inflammation's not necessarily
it's
a bad
not necessarily
thing.
bad,
That's
right?
normal.
Inflammation is a great thing when it's helping you recover, but it's
Yeah.
chronic inflammation that has something else that's underlying, or it's the cause of a high risk lifestyle and not paying attention to health and things like that. And so resistance training can elevate your MTOR for a few days after lifting. And if MTOR elevation actually caused cancer, then why doesn't every pro bodybuilder out there have cancer? Like, we would have had rampant levels of cancer in that community if that was actually a thing.
That's very
Could you
true.
imagine if, you do this to look better
what
and
a
get in
sacrifice.
shape, but you, it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna have cancer?
Yeah, no one would do it.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, someone would do it, but not many people
That would
would
stop
do it.
being looked at, I think, as attractive, because we would all know overall that it's an unhealthy way to live, and this person's going to be riddled with cancer. I think there would probably be like this physical beauty shift at that point. But again, I'm just making guesses at that point. Regardless, you don't see that.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. So for them to target MTOR and know that the average person has no clue what that is.
It kind of also feels like these people are probably really big meat eaters. You could probably see a lot of heart disease in these same people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's no backup to these claims.
Zero backup.
Yeah.
Now, you can find some issues with people who have been way above physiological levels of steroid use and stuff for a long period of time.
sure.
But that's a completely different beast altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. People who exercise and elevate MTOR historically have way lower causes of all-cause mortality. They're healthier. They're more resistant to stress and change. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that.
Michael,
Yes.
talk to me about that burrito experiment.
Okay. I suppose I could do that.
You should. You could and you should.
I
All right.
can't wait till we. This is the episode that I'm very excited about when we start talking about. I've said this before, but the animals and the livestock.
Oh,
and
yes, yeah.
That's the piece that I'm really kind of
well-
excited to talk about.
But first, burritos.
Yeah, let's talk about the burritos.
So we talked about the first burrito.
So they did a second one, and this was
the best one.
purely around seeing whether or not the vegan diet would give you more boners.
yeah, better, longer lasting boners.
Yeah, but they even-
there were 0 female participants
By the way, though,
because of their lack of boners.
Yeah.
they also did state in this section, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I agree with everything that you're saying, obviously. Not obviously, but I do agree with most of the stuff that you're saying. But I do have to say, as devil's advocate for this, they did say this is not an actual study. This was like a couple things they threw together, and they basically did state this is not proof of anything, but it's interesting information.
Yeah, but
It was
essentially what they
interesting.
said.
I'll give them
Yeah,
that.
it's a hell of a tagline. It's the same thing as
I get that.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not putting you down. You're right. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
It's a tagline. It's the same way everything gets advertised on social media. There's a really cool header, or the things that pop up on Facebook that like, oh, this is interesting. You go in to read, and something completely damn different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you with all those things, but they did say that, and my thought process when I remember watching that part in the movie was like, well, why do you have this? Doesn't really okay. So these 3 guys had this reaction because it was the 3 guys that they
Think
did.
and did they use
right?
football players again?
Yeah.
They were athletes.
It was the same.
That's
same
right.
dudes from the
Miami
first,
Dolphins.
From the first burritos.
Was
They
it?
got to go through 2 burrito
I
experiments.
think it was the same dudes from the West. Maybe
don't
it's different
No,
dudes.
not
You're
for
right.
the burrito. The 2 burrito thing with the football guys. These are college guys that they did this to. That they did the boner experiment. The boner experiment.
The boner experiment.
Boner
as it will be
experiment,
called.
2017 ish.
Ish.
17. I don't
But
know.
yeah, there were. I think there were 3. It was 3 college dudes. But
3 young gentlemen.
Yeah.
3 young gentlemen.
but
Probably
yeah,
don't have any boner problems, but anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
that.
So what they did is the same thing, basically.
Same burrito scenario.
Same
yep.
burrito scenario where they fed them meat burritos one night and then sent them home with some kind of a dick contraption that measures their boners. And like how
Do
erect.
you have one of those at home, Mike?
Yeah, Mike measures his boners nightly.
I had something for this. But
It was like it would measure how long they had a boner, how good their boner was.
how good was it?
It's so good.
A machine can't tell me how good my boner is.
And then the next night, the next day they fed them vegan burritos
Makes sense,
for
yep.
dinner, and then sent them home and did the same thing, and then basically showed them the difference. And it was like a very significant difference in their boner.
That's how they stated it. For
bonertude.
Sure. In their bonertude. All right. So they basically, like you said, measured their total testosterone serum on the front end and the back end to see which one had the bigger effect. Now, they claimed that the vegans had more testosterone. If you look at the actual study that is referenced, it turns out that both meat eaters and vegans at that point had basically the same overall testosterone. Now, what the difference was is, do you guys recall SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin?
No.
So the body produces that, and it ends up binding with testosterone and rendering it inert. So when it comes to testosterone levels, the most important factor of your testosterone is not necessarily the overall, it's the free testosterone, because that is the testosterone that is free and available to actually bind to anabolic receptors and do stuff.
Sorry, Mike. Victor's
My
dog.
leg was actually getting sore.
Victor's dog is like hanging off of this chair with all of his weight on Mike's leg. He's like about to fall.
Post that picture on the.
Oh, he's
my
so
gosh.
cute.
Really.
I've been literally taking pictures of him.
No,
this
I
whole
saw it,
time.
yeah.
I'm the worst.
And maybe I'll start posting on that. Anyways, so the having your SHBG elevated, which it did in the vegans, means you have less available free testosterone overall. So you're going to get less of an effect for your sex drive and anabolic response and bonerville.
Bonertude.
Yeah, it's a small town within the state of boners.
Bonerado.
Bonerado, there it is. That's
yeah.
the one.
Okay, so do we have any reasoning why we saw such a difference? Or was it just
I think some would correlate depending on where they got the vegan burritos from and the protein sources from those. People have stated the estrogen levels in, say, soy protein can cause some sort of response, but I haven't seen many studies that have really replicated that either. So honestly, I don't know.
Yeah,
I do
feel
know
like
that
we'd
there
actually
is
have to do this as
Yeah.
a study.
yeah, and there is some, there's some correlation obviously between diet and how much of your free testosterone is available and what causes your body to produce more or less sex hormone binding globulin. And so you can, try and maximize via diet and intake and stress levels, whatever, to lower the production of SHBG, which is worth doing for people who are finding they're a little bit lower testosterone, but not quite in the low realm yet. So how do we maximize that? And you don't want to give up drinking forever, and you don't want to get up eating your bad foods, and you can't guarantee you're going to get 8 hours of sleep every night. So for those people who are not going to live a perfect lifestyle, because you should be able to enjoy your life as well,
Right.
which would only maybe maximize it by anywhere from 1 to 300 overall, which just may or may not be a huge impact on you. You want to maximize, producing less sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG.
SHBG.
Yeah, and I haven't looked into that myself. So
Yeah, I just feel like that particular study was interesting, but it just felt like it was like a way to catch dudes' attention into this particular topic.
100%.
You would need lots of people and need to do this in like a way more controlled environment with like multiple, repeated things, not just like one night.
And when you dig into enough studies and research and reading and learning, you start to take statements, well salted, if you will. And so I had enough people come up to me after the Game Changers film came out, and they're like, "Man, I'll tell you what, I went vegan, and they're right about the boners." And I'm like, "Hey, that's cool, man. When you were eating meat, like, one, thank you for telling me that, but two, when you were eating meat, how many fruits and veggies were you getting? Were you taking care of your micronutrient load
Yeah.
at that point?" And the likelihood is somebody has gone off. Based off of the many, many people that I've worked with who come with many gaps in their nutrition, it's highly unlikely that they were getting everything they needed micronutrient-wise, getting good
it
loads of
seems like
fiber. And
veganism forces you to.
It does.
It takes out
micronutrients.
so many things.
So it's a matter of whether or not
That
you
makes
could
sense.
You get fruits and
that
veggies
does make
left.
sense.
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
matter of whether or not it was as simple as, oh, wait, you just added fruits and veggies to your diet.
Yeah.
Was the
It
meat
feels
really
like
holding you back?
You could
Unlikely.
eat a vegan diet with adding in, lean meats and
that's
and
the
some
omnivore
dairy,
route, yeah.
right?
So what I'm
And
getting
then
on
you're
this
doing
is
well.
better fruits and veggies, better boners.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm getting out of all of
And
this.
that's like saying, too, because what are some of the most important things for maximizing testosterone? We covered sleep. We covered low stress, but there's also getting adequate protein, resistance training, good magnesium and zinc supplementation, which is micronutrients.
I mean, I feel like if you just state the claim that if you eat fruits and vegetables, you have better boners, more men are going to eat fruits and
Yes.
vegetables.
And that is probably a true statement.
Yeah.
They could have led with that, but instead it's just, nope, vegan. That's the only way you're going to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, I understand for their realm of but
Wanting to mislead everybody? Yes, I understand that too.
But I'm saying in this conversation, hearing it just like this, that more
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables are better boners, I'm about to go to the grocery store. Is
There
what
you
I'm
go.
saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll get you
feel it.
some boner pills in the
And
shape
honestly,
of fruits
resistance
and veggies.
training has been shown to give better boners, and the appropriate application of cardio has been shown to give you boners, and all of those things make sense.
I just love
because
to think about like the little scientists who are like basing
The
their
boner
entire
scientists.
science
Yeah.
around boners. They're just boners every day.
I mean, they're
ab-
saving our society.
think about how much money
Helping
is
it grow.
The
made.
real heroes. Not all heroes wear capes. You know?
Think about how much money is in the big pharma Viagra industry.
Yeah,
at
you're
this
so
point.
right.
So that's but you've seen commercials now with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that are in that. You shouldn't be having issues till well after 40.
Yeah.
And so the problem is,
Does that mean Viagra pills are just vegetable pills? Is that what that is?
Oh, God, what
It's
if they
just broccoli pills?
no, I'm gross.
Gross.
So now they're pushing people the wrong direction every damn time. But you need to fix your diet. You need to resistance train. You need to do some conditioning sparingly, obviously, because I don't like cardio. And all of that's going
You
to
do a lot of cardio for not liking cardio.
You say a lot. My cardio sessions last like 7 to 15 minutes, and they're intense. So that's the same thing going. If you can't, handle 15 minutes of intense sex, you probably should up your cardio.
If you eat enough fruits and veggies, you can get your cardio.
Get your cardio
in the bedroom.
If you resistance train, there's a cardiorespiratory response. You throw in your partner all over the place, and going to Pound Town, it's easier at that point.
Is that located near?
It's near Bonerville. Absolutely, they have rival football teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, exercise and diet means better sex. And I think that does need to be highlighted because that's something everybody wants.
Yeah.
If you're a guy and you want stamina, you need to be strong and you need to be somewhat conditioned. Your heart's pumping all that blood to through the rest of the United States into Bonerville and straight on down to Pound Town. Very important stuff here. Solving the world's problems. Yeah, it's not going vegan. You're going to be weaker all over via just willy-nilly hopping into Veganville.
Your body's going to be weaker, but your boners will be strong.
Super strong.
I'm ready, but I can't get to you. I'm so frail. Yeah, it sounds about right.
All right, hit us with whatever ever happened after Boner.
Well, it was before Bonerville. I skipped ahead of Bonerville
my
for you
bad.
guys.
That was me. I wanted to hear about
they made the
Bonerville.
statements that humans weren't meant to eat meat. And then, again, we talked about this briefly on the last episode, but then they highlight cows, how cows are living off of grass. Well,
I really
cows
hate
have
that
50
one.
stomachs
Yeah.
and break things down differently and have bacteria in their multiple stomachs.
They kept implying that, like, cows and poultry and stuff were like the middlemen.
middlemen.
But it was like,
Oh, my God.
that makes it sound like I can just eat what they're eating.
Right.
And it's like, well, they're eating corn.
Well, that's also then like saying, well, oranges were the middlemen for penicillin. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So let's not take penicillin. Let's just eat oranges
oranges.
or something. Did I get that right?
I don't feel
know.
like you did, but that's
Anyway.
fine.
Bread.
Sure, bread. What's happening with bread?
Penicillin is
No,
from
it
moldy
was discovered
bread.
on oranges initially.
Really? I was always told it was bread.
No, the person who told you that's an idiot.
I don't know who said it, though. I want to know who the idiot
Just
is.
a real dum-dum. But, I mean, you can look that up if you want.
I'm gonna right now.
You should, right now,
I am.
while I continue reading.
Go ahead.
So, essentially, again, they quote cows and then they do gorillas, right?
Yeah, they did talk about gorillas.
Because I guess gorillas are going to be closer to humans than cows. But
yeah, yes.
gorillas also have different types of bacteria in their stomach and intestines that help them get the nutrients from said, plants. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they eat some grass too, but gorillas eat about 40 pounds of food a day.
Shit.
They eat a lot of fruits in like warmer months, and in the winter they'll eat less. So when they are getting fruits, where are my stats at?
Your
And
gorilla
this,
stats?
This shit didn't take long to research either. So it's very obvious they just skipped all over that. So gorillas eat about 40 pounds of food a day. When fruit is plentiful, they eat about 19% protein, which is about 5% above the average vegan. When food is scarce, which is about 4 months out of the year, we're talking winter type stuff, they're taking in almost 30% of their total calories as protein, about double the average vegan.
What the hell do gorillas eat?
Well, fruit's one thing.
I mean, how much protein's in fruit?
They're basically vegan. Not a lot from fruit. That's not the only thing they eat.
That's what I'm wondering.
Right, so when
what
there's-
do they eat?
They'll eat less protein when there is fruit available because they're kind of balancing it out.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
there's less protein,
Man,
fruit,
gorillas
they're
are so
still hungry.
jacked too. Like I feel like they're not even doing anything to be jacked. They just are jacked.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of like that bull that runs protein, nonstop. Or doesn't
Yeah.
run protein; it just builds muscle. You've seen some of those, but those are like a genetic defect in it.
Yeah.
But what just sort of works for gorillas.
Leaves, shoots, and stems. That's most.
Oh, that's right.
That's
They do a lot of
85%
bamboo shoots as
their-
well, stems.
That's 85% of their diet. Apparently,
There's a
gorillas.
good amount of protein in
How
bamboo.
many? 85%?
But they're also not vegan because they eat larvae and
Oh,
snails.
they eat
and
buggy
ants.
bugs? Yeah, I guess they do eat
okay.
buggy bugs.
And that's fine, but they tried to play off that.
I'm
they
just
are
saying
vegan. No,
that-
and that's what we need to know. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
missed
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Interesting.
So gorillas are basically taking in about 30% of their total calories as protein, like I said, in those leaner months. So it's not the same, and we can't eat bamboo, which has a better protein ratio than just eating, say, we'd have to
Yeah,
eat
we don't
like
eat
100 pounds of
shoots.
spinach if we want to do that. That's a lot
That's
of
a
damn
lot of
spinach.
spinach. Maybe cook it down, maybe? No.
Yeah.
Is
so
it?
so
No.
gorillas are eating all the time, and they have solid amounts of protein, and they're just eating different things. So to equate a cow's diet, which is just way ridiculous, I'll give you a gorilla, sure, because they're a little bit more similar,
Yeah.
but not similar enough.
No.
We can't eat the things they're eating. And just saying that, oh, they eat plants and they're jacked. Well, sure, there are powerlifters and bodybuilders who are also vegan. They just manage to get all the protein they need.
Yeah.
Protein is still absolutely crucial.
That is interesting. Yeah, I feel like it is interesting to compare animals and stuff, but in the day, like we're not
them.
We're just not them.
And
Yeah.
that's why there's a ton of rodent studies that just don't apply to us. Sure, it's an interesting way to set a hypothesis, but now we have to see if it actually transfers over to how humans operate.
So the bamboo thing, humans cannot eat. I don't know. Did you just? I was look Googling, so you might have just said this. Bamboo, humans cannot eat it because there's a toxin in bamboo that's poisonous to humans.
I
you
did
just
say we
that?
couldn't eat it. I
But
was just thinking about how hard as shit it would be to eat.
but there's a
Yeah.
toxin. Fresh bamboo
Yeah.
contains toxins that are poisonous to humans. So bamboo shouldn't be eaten raw.
which gorillas
Yeah,
can
see what I'm
actually
saying?
process.
Like that's
it needs to be processed, cut and boiled in salt
Yeah.
water.
It is real
before
good
use.
once you do all
Oh,
that.
the gorillas are probably cutting, washing, and boiling it. So that
that
just
makes
rules out my
sense.
theory.
They have hands.
They do have hands.
They could do it.
Yeah,
They could do it.
Could.
They put a little apron on and get in the kitchen.
Oh, I love that.
very
Big
cute.
gorilla apron.
Very wide.
Kiss the baboon. I don't know.
Kiss the baboon.
Yeah, so it's comparing that as a basis for your diet in humans is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, using other. I mean, that's the same thing that drives me crazy when they do studies on like mice and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but okay, so the makeup kills them or this or whatever
Yeah.
they do, but like, is that how it's going to react on a human
Yeah,
being?
Mike was just saying that, right? Where it's like you can't just.
You can't just transpose that over
So I
and
get
be
it.
like,
Like you
well,
can't.
look at this.
You also can't just do testing on humans. So like you're
Right.
kind of in this catch-22.
Well, look at
situation.
these
I mean, you
ants.
could. It just
Yeah.
would be not,
Frowned upon.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, what's next? Or can we jump to the thing that I'm like chomping at the bit here, man? So that's the one thing I said in the last episode. There's a part of the movie that I might be a little tough to be swayed, and it's the industry of meat. The industry of meat being like damaging
right.
to the environment.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So like, there is probably some truth to that because we do have a lot of fucking meat production and
Yeah,
it takes up
so
space and all of that. But
part
tell
of
me a
that-
little bit about what you remember there.
I was gonna say, so like they were saying about how like all of the
Greenhouse gas emissions.
yeah, gas, all types of different stuff. That having farms, big farms with with meat and everything that it's production and all of the effects that it has on our ecosystem from these big massive farms. So I say that I'm like, oh, I believe that that's true, like all that stuff. But I also follow some farms on social media,
Right.
and they talk about like they're like super open about what they do and how they do it and how they take care of the animals and this and that. And I'm like, so I believe that too. So now I'm like stuck. Like,
Yeah,
what's reality?
I don't know if
All right, so this is real short and simple. Well, not real short and simple. And we're also going to get semi-political because this is how I feel about this whole thing.
Uh-oh.
Or maybe not political, but maybe it is. I don't know. Anyways, so in developed countries, greenhouse emissions from the meat and dairy industry account for about 3% of the emissions. Okay, 13 to 18% globally because we have a lot of developed countries. In undeveloped countries, the greenhouse gas emissions are upwards of 18% or higher. So it's in the undeveloped countries that the meat and dairy type stuff is kicking out a bunch of greenhouse emissions.
what is the
Hold
reasoning
on.
for that.
Because we have better processes, everything's more efficient.
Is that, or is it because in developed countries we have way more freaking cars, and so the percentage of that is better?
Cars are different. Cars are higher in developed countries than they are in the third world
But that's what I'm
countries.
saying. Well, that would change your percentage.
That's true.
So
They're,
Right.
they're two different percentages. Greenhouse emissions from the meat and dairy industry, I'm separating the two. The vehicle industry and transportation, et cetera, accounts for its own percentage.
Okay,
so we are
but,
only
like,
talking about
is
meat and
this
dairy.
out of 100%? Am I adding?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
adding cows and dairy to cars. He's saying
for the overall 100%,
so
sure.
he's saying
That's what I'm
he's
saying.
saying. If the 100% in an undeveloped country, they don't have cars.
they don't have as
So
much cars.
their cars aren't taking a huge chunk out of the percentage.
So therefore that percentage
the
is
percentage
higher.
of cow or dairy
Okay, but that's
production
fine.
would be
But
bigger.
you also have just pure global percentages as well. And regardless, the greenhouse emissions globally from the meat and dairy industry is significantly lower of an impact than people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean,
I
that's
believe
probably
that, but
true,
I'm
yeah.
saying like comparing 3%, like our 3% here
Yeah.
is still destroying the 20% of a smaller because they don't like because the overall numbers are so much
different.
bigger
Maybe.
when
Yeah.
you're talking about percentages.
Maybe. I'd have to dig deeper, but you also bear in mind, too, in a third world country, they don't really give a shit about catalytic converters.
Yeah.
You know, they still have plenty of vehicles out and about, but we have way more specific emission stuff that is in place. Same thing for any developed country at that point.
I'd like to look into what farms do to like lower their greenhouse emissions.
I don't know that they really worry about that. Honestly, I don't think they do. You got to bear in mind, too, how long has the whole global warming thing been a big deal, right? It sort of kicked in the last couple of decades.
Yeah, say my whole life that I remember.
Yeah. So this is where it gets real weird in my head. I feel like this new generation, last couple of generations that are really coming up, are making a really big stink about, you know, global warming and gas emissions, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of doing anything to change it, it seems to be all, you know, raging and complaining and picketing and doing things like that. When, say, like the UK, for example, is accounting for like 3% of global emissions. The Americas, not much more. Like the places where the majority of you know, pollution and carbon footprint and greenhouse gases are in, you know, Latin America, Asia, India. Like these are third world spots where, okay, let's go talk to them because they're kicking out the most emissions. Hey guys, we need you to go green. Right? When they're just trying to put food on the table for their families, they're not
Yeah.
going to change a
They don't
damn
have the money
thing.
to go green.
No.
Yeah.
And you'd go to Asia where, you know, who was this, the story kicked out? I think we talked about it with the Asian prince or something who got kicked out of the palace. His whole family was murdered. He rose back up to establish that. And they're still just trying to take care of their people. But they're a bunch of poor people. Like
Yeah.
you can't make that change in a third world country. So in our first world countries, what needs to be happening is instead of just complaining about shit, we need to get our youth building things and discovering new technology and creating cheap, efficient, clean fuel. And that's what's going to change the world. When you have that energy that is cheap and accessible, now we give it to everybody. Now you've actually changed something, not just complaining.
Yo, so this is a little interesting. I just Googled it because I was curious. When you just said what I would like to do this research, I was like, what causes greenhouse emissions on farms? That's what I just Googled.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
it's
question.
cows farting. I could have told you that. I'm just kidding.
So that's part of it. They create methane. That is part of it.
So do we.
Oh, cool. Hold on.
Let's get rid of the people.
Yeah, but so
no shit, that would solve the
raising
problem.
raising livestock is part of it, but in that this says the majority. So there's different responses. So bear with me for a second here.
Okay.
This answer was of 2019. It says the majority of agricultural production emissions come from raising livestock. That's what this says.
It's one of the stupidest statements ever. Of
Hold
course
on,
it does.
hold on,
Yeah.
hold on.
Lay it on me. What do you got?
In 2023, September of 2023.
Oh, that's recent.
Yeah.
That's super recent.
Most carbon dioxide emissions from agricultural results from disturbance of soil organic matter, aka plants rotting, and you're stirring up the soil.
Okay.
And so all of that's coming from plants.
So like the
And soil.
production of or growing produce.
And just the organic matter
That's
just
so-
decay, like
Have you
all
looked
that
at the
kind of
stats
stuff.
of how
That's what
much-
this says.
Yeah, yeah.
So, which is plant residues in various states of decomposition. So, therefore, for the vegan argument, is what I'm saying
Right.
is like the plants that you're eating.
Yeah.
That's actually the larger cause than the animals
Right.
themselves. But I think that was also part of the argument is that you're creating all this feed for the animals. That was part of the argument in that.
But
is-
we've also been creating food for how long now? Like this is all the Earth knows how to handle that. And if you look up the stats of how much CO2 a single tree can convert, it's a tremendous amount. Like the trees are taken care of. You start continue with deforestation and kill more trees, and et cetera, then you have less of an ability to convert that stuff. But here's another thing too that gets me. And again, we don't have to go too far on that tangent. But can we all admit that the banks are pretty much running the world by this point?
yeah.
Okay.
100%.
And so they're still dishing out 30-year mortgages, yeah?
Yeah.
On the coasts,
On the coast?
On the
Oh,
coast,
yeah.
anywhere, islands, coast, whatever, they're still dishing them out. They're in the know. Top scientists running everything. Money keeps on coming in. So if global warming, if we melted the polar ice caps by even a percentage, the coast pretty much everywhere would be underwater.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Maybe not everywhere, but a lot of places. The coast would just start to be put underwater. Not the entirety of the coast, but 20, 30 feet. Like, look up those numbers. They've been kicked out.
But
They're
is
there.
your argument that because they're giving
Still dishing them
mortgages-
out?
Yeah, but I guess here's a counter on that.
Lay it on me.
Would be, okay, they're giving out that mortgage, but they're still going to make their money either which way because they're insured for all of that. So whether you default or not, they get that money
if
back.
all of the coast went under to one fraction or another, and all those houses got sunk, you think the insurance companies would be able to pay
So that's
that
why people
tremendous
have been
amount
having
out?
a really, really hard time getting their houses insured.
And that's
when
another
they
thing
live
too.
on the
Yeah.
coast. So people who have properties that are in previous flood zones are actually having a really hard time getting insurance because the insurance companies are concerned,
Right.
that people will lose their homes and then they'll have to pay out the banks.
Right. And the banks are still dishing those mortgages
Well,
out.
that's what I'm
even
saying.
though there's a
Well,
chance
The
that
banks are going to do. They
the
don't
banks
give a
will
fuck.
because they're still making their money.
They're fucking you.
They don't care.
if the house gets tossed and you can't pay the bank anymore and the insurance companies aren't insuring
they're
those,
not,
then
they're
who
not going to
gets-
sell you the house without the insurance.
Yeah.
You have to have the insurance.
Yes.
So that's where you get screwed. The bank will give you the loan. You just got
Yeah,
to
the
figure out
bank
how to
was
get the insurance.
more than willing. That argument
I
doesn't
thought they
work.
can't give you a loan unless you have insurance. They can't just give you a loan. That's all part of buying a home. You have to have
That's
the
what
insurance
we're
up
That's
front.
what we're saying,
saying.
and they're saying that the insurance companies are the ones who are saying no.
Then the
banks are
housing
always
market, the
willing.
housing market there just gets shut down, and those banks don't sell any more houses.
No, people with money can still buy it.
Yeah, you just pay a
but would
fucking
they?
lot in insurance.
Yeah.
Regardless, the coasts aren't going under. The
See, I don't-
global warming thing has been drastically blown out of proportion. This is something that
I
was
don't
created in the
necessarily
last
agree
couple of
with
decades.
that.
The Earth has gone through multiple warming, cooling phases.
Yes, but it
without
never-
us.
Exactly. Without us. We have changed it.
You think we've changed it, but there actually is no actual science that's pointing towards that. It's just something that's been spun off for a while. Find me the actual studies that are showing this, and then we can have a conversation.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
let's-
that we
let's-
should do that later and not right
Yeah.
now.
I was
I
going
was
to say.
just
then
about to
let's-
say that won't be on
then
the Finding My
let's-
Fit at 40 podcast, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah. Then we'll put a bookmark
yeah.
in
And
this.
again, I'm not saying I don't believe in global warming. I'm just saying I haven't seen the evidence. You show me evidence, just like anything in the fitness world, then I'll take a look at it. We'll be like, oh shit, okay. But I've seen way more stuff that's pointing against it than pointing towards it.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, moving on.
That's fair. You can be wrong.
I can. Good thing about me is I can admit when I'm wrong. I am happy to admit when I'm wrong.
I'm just all right. Keep going. Keep going.
All right.
Keep going.
So, short snippet, they highlight some vegan bodybuilders, but who gives a shit because there's a tremendous amount more of meat-eating bodybuilders that are consistently doing better, right? So it's not really a good market towards it. So again, they highlighted the Diaz-McGregor fight, and it was obvious that McGregor lost because he eats meat. Yeah. But when a vegan bodybuilder places well, they're like, see, look, veganism.
I
And
feel
that's
like
it.
if they would have just spun this whole thing, all they had to do is say that it's a viable way of living.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
100%.
I would have been like totally into it. But it was the fact that they're trying to make it seem like it's a better way of living.
They make
that
it seem like it's the only way of living. And it's like you could have done the whole documentary and presented all these same things where it's like, hey, look, these are the pros of eating like a vegan.
Right.
Cool. But instead, they just demonized meat the
Correct.
whole time. And it was like, eh.
Which you make it that polarizing, sure. You're going to convert a lot of people.
I
You're
mean,
going
I
to sell,
swear to
views
you, we could make the opposite documentary.
easily.
Easily. And it would be like just as convincing, And it's like you just villainize vegetables somehow.
Yeah.
And
And I'm
I mean,
sure
it
the
just feels
carnivores
like,
are working on that. So again, we're going to go from one extreme to the other.
Yo, I don't know if
Yeah.
the people listening can hear it, but my dog is snoring. Like, put the mic over next to his face so that people can hear him
He's
snoring.
very passed out.
Can you?
He just woke up.
You woke him up.
He has really good
Michael.
microphone sense.
Yeah. He was just sawing logs over there.
He's so cute.
So next short one, they claim that carbs are better for muscle building. Now again, remember that the filmmakers are calling carbs plants
Yeah, they basically just keep saying
or
it's
plants
very-
carbs.
Yeah.
If they say carbs, they just mean plants. Simple as that. But the study that they highlighted was actually done on an animal-based diet.
Really?
Yep,
It-
they took a high protein, high
See,
carb
what the
diet and
hell?
compared it to a ketogenic diet. That's all they did.
Yeah.
And the study, if you look at the actual study, was done on an animal-based diet. So what are you telling me here? Yes, carbs are going to be better. If you look at a ketogenic diet, you're going to build muscle less efficiently because carbs are going to aid in recovery. It means that less protein gets converted into glucose. You are running off of ketones at that point to fuel a bunch of activity, but it's less efficient. You can't push as hard, and multiple studies have shown you can't gain as much muscle. So yes, you guys are right. Carbs are better for building muscle once protein is equated and calories are equated.
Question:
That's really
are
interesting
carbs?
that they did that.
I know we've said that they're like carbs or vegetables, but aren't carbs basically like? Is there another source of carbs that isn't a vegetable or that isn't from?
Fruit. I mean, if you go
Fruits,
down, like any bread and
breads.
stuff you're making is going to
Well,
come from the
bread's
ground with
veggies, wheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sugar.
Yeah,
is
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's
I
why
feel
I was
like wheat
like,
isn't
well,
a vegetable.
yeah.
Technically, yes, everything but fruit, obviously.
Okay.
But it's a matter
So
of, again,
most.
how processed everything gets from A to
but
B,
I was just
whether or not
right
you
now
call
it just
purely.
clicked, and I was like, well, yeah. I mean, though we're saying that like, oh, it's so ridiculous. But I'm like, how many sources of carbs are there other than
Right.
vegetables?
So now, if we dig further back, yes, we can understand that as a front. But for them to state it as simply, they're literally just trying to polarize plants versus meat at this point.
yeah.
So they're not digging that deep in that statement.
This is
They're
why
just
they
giving a
show
flash
that the
statement.
name of the study is in like the tiniest font in the
Tiniest
bottom
font,
corner. Yeah.
because that whole study done with an animal-based diet. What are you telling me here?
Wait a minute. I just said aren't carbs all plants, and you said fruits, and I'm like, wait, that's a plant too, though, boss.
You said vegetables.
You did say
I
vegetables.
all right. So I meant plants.
Plants.
Well, say
'Cause
what you mean.
that's-
Mean what you say.
But that's what they're saying. They're saying that all plants are carbs, but all plants are. That's where all carbs come from.
Basically,
are plants.
yeah, but I feel like they don't mean cereal.
Oh, that tracks.
They
Yeah.
mean vegetables.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying with between
Regardless.
processed and
Right.
pure whole plant sources at that point.
But
yes, you're
so all
absolutely right.
carbs do come from. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I mean that's basically it. So now we're digging into just the conflicts of interest. Okay, where they make the claim that all the studies showing positive meat findings are secretly funded by the meat and dairy industry. They
Love
made that
that.
claim.
All of them?
All of
Crazy.
them.
That's crazy.
So now we're just villainizing all the studies made from that industry, yet all the studies that they have highlighted were the ones that weren't blatantly meat-based.
yeah.
Like when they're kicking out the avocado study that was funded by Avocado Company.
Yeah.
So now is that study irrelevant?
I did not know that, but that was funny because I was like, why did this kid just randomly say this thing about avocado fat?
Right.
And I was like, oh, that makes way more
Yeah.
sense.
So you cannot discount a study
because
purely
of where it comes
based
from.
off of the funding source. You can be a little skeptical, sure, but
Well,
that's
because a
why
lot
you
of
look at
places have
more
done
than
that.
just one study.
I feel
I
like
mean, there's so many studies. There's
There
no
are.
way they're all funded by.
No, and if you pull enough, especially independent studies, you compare independent studies to see whether or not they say the same thing, because there are some studies that are done by industry-led studies versus independent studies where they do not show the same thing. Now we have an issue.
Yeah.
Now we need to dig further back. Now we need more studies. Now we need meta-analyses. Now we need,
and there's multiple examples throughout
Of course.
time of companies paying for a study so that it shows the results of what they want for what
or
they
hoping
need.
it does. And maybe they do a study and they don't, print it out, but
Well, they usually. So I've seen on other things talking about debunking things and whatnot, where they find out later that this study has shown this. Well, it's because they put pressure on the doctors to make sure that this is what the outcome that I want. You need to
100%
prove this
believe
outcome
that
this way.
happens.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
And
that
so
happens, yeah.
that's where, because there are multiple examples of that happening, it then looks sketchy anytime somebody in that industry does a study. It's like, well, obviously you're cooking
Yeah, I
the
know.
books
And what's
just like
kind of
they did.
frustrating about the whole thing is like, well, someone has to do the study and someone has to fund the study.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
No
like,
way around
money
that.
involved
Yeah.
and necessary. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that money's obviously going to come from somebody who wants to see a positive impact come from there. So
Yeah.
now on the same note, you can't just assume that everybody's put pressure on. They could be funding a study and being like, man, I hope this comes out our way. But that study could also be pushed forward by that company because, okay, well, we've read enough studies on, say, meat at this point. I feel
wanna
like it's going to be a
prove-
study, a positive alpha. Let's do this. Let's fund it. Let's put more stuff in here. Our researchers have done enough. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it was real shitty about that. And you also have conflicts of interest, in which case, at the very front of any peer-reviewed, scientific research
do
and
have
things
to
like
say
that,
that, yeah.
they put the conflicts of interest up.
They have to
put
list them.
Who is doing the study. They list that up front. They didn't do that for this film.
No.
They didn't tell you about the conflicts of interest. They didn't tell you about all the people that are in this that are pushing the vegan agenda and how none of the people in it were from the opposing side, which is how a documentary works. Again, you go in and you bring up points from both sides of the equation and you let people form their own opinion. That is what a documentary does. That is
Yeah.
not what this did.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Did you nail it?
That's it. That's all I got.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
I have to say, so again, let's do a little recap of everything. So we talked about it the last episode, and
Do
we
you want me
talked
to start
again.
over? I can start over.
Yeah, from the
From the
beginning.
top.
Let's
From the
from the top. Here we go. No, but we talked a little bit in the last episode about like our overall reaction. But now that we've kind of touched base with all the things that we've kind of wanted to touch about the movie, I still feel it was very eye-opening
It
in
is.
some things.
Yeah.
Because there is some truth in what they're saying of there. I mean, there is.
I think the truth is in the fact that
Vegetables are very
yeah,
important.
that you need to eat.
Absolutely.
I think the problem is that what it really shows is that the majority of people aren't eating well, right? Like,
And have
when
no
they
clue
went-
how to do
When
that
they went to the
with all this
firehouse, remember they went
misinformation.
to this firehouse,
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the firemen
and all the
yeah.
firefighters are in there, and basically what I took from that, because they looked at people's like blood markers and stuff, is like, man, these guys eat like shit.
Correct.
Yeah,
They eat like shit. And then they put them on a vegan diet. And they just flip their fucking world and their diet all completely upside down. It's like, man, yes. Or these guys could have still enjoyed meat.
Correct.
You know, they could have eaten lots of chicken and then also just started eating more fruits and vegetables, like more whole foods. And they probably would have had a very similar outcome.
Yep.
So
If not a better outcome, especially in terms of exercise, making sure you get enough protein at that
yeah.
point. And
I think the parts that were still interesting to me, Victor, is, the people who, like the bodybuilder guy, he'd never not been a vegan, I feel
Right.
like, right? So it was like, he seemed to be really thriving, and now he was one dude. There wasn't really anyone else on the show who I could really compare him to.
right.
But I still thought, it was interesting for him that he was able to really thrive, like at that level that he was
Yeah.
at, But he also could just be one of those genetic freaks of nature.
Now, I also wonder if you say somebody's never eaten meat, his parents were vegan as well, or are they
and
talking
I don't know
about
if he
in
was
adulthood?
even vegan or he's vegetarian. I have no idea,
Right.
but it could have been a religious
I don't know,
thing.
but regardless, there's outliers, and if it's
Yeah.
done well, and as he aged, he started dialing more and more into making sure he gave his body everything he needed, especially as a bodybuilder.
Bodybuilder, yeah. He's
they
probably
are
really paying
already
attention.
more focused on that,
Yeah.
and with all the plant-based powders, like you can get
Mm-hmm.
a ton of protein just doing it via powders, and then enjoying whatever fake
Oreos.
vegan meals they make look like other meat or something. Yeah,
I'm
Oreos,
also
Doritos.
really sketchy usually on when people claim to be vegans anyway, because I can't tell you how many times people are like, "Yeah, I'm vegan," and then they eat fish, and I'm like, "What? Oh yeah,
Right.
but I
I'm
mean,
a pesca vegan.
yeah, well, that happens all the time."
Yeah.
Or they're like, they're like, "Yeah, but I eat eggs." Well, then you're not a vegan.
You're an ova vegan,
What?
Ova vegan.
ovarian vegan,
Mm.
ovary. I don't know. Don't eat ovaries.
But I've had that. Have you guys not had that experience where people use the word
course.
Yeah,
vegan
of
and then they're
course.
like, "Oh, but I eat this"?
I
What?
think people like the tagline. It sounds better to them to say I'm vegan than I'm vegetarian.
I
Maybe
think the real situation is, well, a lot of people
don't know the difference.
know is that, they maybe did eat pure vegan and then realized,
It's not-
I feel better when I'm eating lots of fruits and vegetables, but I realize that I can eat, eggs and still feel the same way, or milk or whatever, and so like they went to the extreme and then like tiptoed their way back to like an in the middle where they find comfortable, which I think is fine. I have like one of my cousins doesn't eat any meat, and she's like, there's no reason to it. I just don't I don't feel well when I eat meat. But she has some digestive issues. But, so it was like, fine. Like, you did the thing. It's not like you've canceled out anything.
Right.
You're not vilifying it. You don't have any problem with anyone else eating meat. Her fiance eats meat. It's like not, a thing. So it's like people find their own way. But I think that's what happens to a lot of people that go vegan, where they go full vegan and they're like, man, I miss whatever. I miss this one thing, whether it's dairy products or
Yeah.
cheese or whatever. I mean, like,
So
not
great.
cheese would
Work
be
that-
sad.
work that one
right.
thing
So then
in.
they fit the things in and they realize they still kind of feel good. And it's probably because they're still continuing to eat well, right? They're still having a pretty well balanced diet. They're getting lots of fruits and vegetables, So yeah, so let them eat their fish or whatever. But you're right. Saying that they're vegan is a little misleading.
Yeah, all the time. Like I've
it also just
There should
it
be
kind
a
of goes
word
to
for
show
that.
how much people want to fit in a category or group or be accepted or have a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes that's a big push as well. It's
We
just
need a word for like people who just eat a really well-rounded diet. a megan, like a meat vegan,
Me.
a meat vegan, a megan.
That's
Something like that.
So
that's just
for
an
you guys
omnivore.
listening, give us an
Yeah,
idea.
but that doesn't
Let's
sound fun. It's not
brainstorm
catchy.
together.
It's
You're
not
right,
catchy
it's
at
not.
all.
Brainstorm with
Momnivore. No, don't
mean,
eat
that
your
is-
mom.
That
I don't-
sounds like you eat. Yeah, you
right.
eat moms.
Never mind.
Or just an omnivore.
Steakivore.
But we said that's not fun.
It's not fun.
That's not a category people want to fit into.
no,
They
we
want to be
can't-
hip. And
We
new.
can't sell people lifestyles based off of that, Victor.
Oh, sorry. So we need a fun word that we can sell a lifestyle off of. How about just a good human? No?
No.
That's not
no,
good.
good
No.
humans are the worst.
The worst.
I don't know any. I just don't know any.
Oh,
Whoa, shots fired today. Shots fired.
The only good one is that little dog right there, upside down.
cute.
He's
So
the
cute.
best.
Oh my gosh. Guys, thank you very much for listening. We're going to be back at you hopefully again next week.
yeah.
And hit us up in the group if you have any questions, any concerns. Stump the Schwab. Do you remember that show? It was just, no, you guys will not know that show. It's
What did you
sports
even say?
reference.
Stump
No,
the
probably
Schwab?
not.
The Schwab. So it was a
Like
show
the Schwab Bank?
on ESPN, and
It's
this
about
guy.
global warming again?
He was like the stat guy for ESPN, and he just like ended up knowing like so
Oh,
much
he was
crap.
like a savant
so they
of
called him the
numbers.
Schwab, and they had created a game show, and this you would have to go on and play this against him,
Oh.
and it was Stump the Schwab. They called it, and you had to try to beat him. Anyway, but I'm calling Michael the Schwab because he knows lots of stuff.
I'll take that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I.
Mike, you're a Schwab.
Yeah.
Feels like an
I'm a
insult.
Schwaber.
No.
But come on into the group. Come say hey, join the socials, do all the fun things. And most importantly, come back next week and come see us.
Yeah, and most importantly, don't be vegan. Unless
I don't know if that's
I think
most
it's a moral thing.
importantly.
That's fine. It's
I mean, you can
semi-important.
survive as a vegan.
don't be vegan for the sake of being vegan.
Yeah, I mean,
Just eat better, y'all.
Eat
yeah,
better,
just
y'all.
eat better. Add the fruits, add the veggies. You get better
so
boners.
many fruits and veggies. Yeah, boners will be through the roof. Not for
So
you ladies.
If it,
Well,
but
it is
does it
for you
help with
ladies.
ladies
It's
though
for you
too?
ladies.
So here's, I mean,
It's going to help
side
females
note.
with sex drive, hormone levels, energy levels. So yeah, it's going to help. But you know, it's not going to
The
magically.
metaphorical boner.
It won't magically give you
Metaphorical.
legitimate
metaphorical
boners.
lady
So don't be
boner.
afraid of that. You won't wake up with a boner.
All right.
So confused. All right, love you. Bye, guys.
Love you.